Hello, folks. This is Professor LeFay, and I wanted to go over writing about writing or storytelling about storytelling so that you have ideas on how to do your reflection, which comes at the end of this class. For your reflection, tell me a story. Be creative. Show me. The most important thing you learned about storytelling, how you learned it, how you will use it beyond this class, and how what you learned fits into your faith and or calling. Be specific, use examples. If you submit an audio file or a video with a link, then please remember to upload a title card or an image of the title um, into the Dropbox and then put the link in the notes. I also want to give a quick reminder, please don't submit things from a Google Drive because that usually creates permission issues. Use something public like SoundCloud or YouTube. If you don't want others to access it, then just make the link private. All right. A lot of times when people are doing these these reflections, they get a little expository, which is another way to say they tell me what they did or what they learned. And there are more creative ways to go about it. So let's see what I mean. The title for this version is Show versus Tell, What I Learned About Storytelling. In storytelling, I learned that showing versus telling is really a sliding scale of when to tell and when to show. In my third story, Hues, I wrote a poem and I told readers how much a sunset changes when you remember watching it with someone who died. Then I got a critique from the professor who said, "Show us the experience, bring us into the moment." Sure, I can do that, I thought. So instead of the sunset hues seemed fainter when I sat on Gran's front porch without her, I wrote, "The ribbons of coral, magenta, and dusty rose reminded me of the lipsticks Gran always put on in the visor mirror before driving us to church. Come Sunday evening, we'd sit on the porch swing, chatting at the sunset. Funny how those colors fade when her laughter without her laughter to cheer them on." This version seems more like you're on the porch with me and Gran, doesn't it? So, this particular reflection is clear. It shows the change and growth of the writer, storyteller, but and it also has kind of a sense of orality, like the narrator's talking to you. But it's not quite as creative as it could be. Let's take a look at a creative example. The title here is more thematic. When the picture fades, emotion is in the details. Grief can be like a filter, coloring the world around us when we reconnect emotionally with those we love in our memories. Revisiting things we've done can bring us closer. Imagine looking at a photograph of a favorite memory with a grandparent who died and finding nothing but words, someone's summary of what happened. Would that make you feel cheated? Me too. In storytelling, I learned when you tell versus show, you're handing your readers a photograph that's nothing but words. Showing versus telling is really a sliding scale of when to tell and when to show. In my third story, Hues, I wrote a poem that came off as a word photo because I told readers how much a sunset changes when you remember watching it with someone who died. Professor LeFay reminded me to show readers this experience, bring them into the moment. Sure, I can do that, I thought. So instead of, you remember this part, I wrote, in the revision, I invited readers into the snapshot of Gran and I laughing at the sunset on her porch, using concrete, revealing details that showed who Gran was as a person. I allowed readers to feel her loss with me as I longed to hear her laughter. When I flip back through the experiences of this class, I can see where I picked up the skills to develop these details by critiquing other people's stories, analyzing professional stories, and noticing the use of details in the stories I viewed on my own time. It's like this class installed a mental zoom lens. My mind now zooms in on the little details. Here you see how the writer does all the things they did in the first round, but they're also more creative. The creativity here is through the use of figurative language, comparing grief like a filter. talking about how good creative writing can be like a photograph or a word photo. Also, notice that when it talks about my advice and how they learn things, it's continuing to use the metaphor of the photographs by talking about flipping back through the experiences, like you would flip through your phone to look at the photos. The next question is, how will you use it beyond the class? Well, that really depends on what your calling is, or what you might do beyond this class. For instance, if you are going to be a nurse, you might talk about how telling stories or inviting patients to tell their own stories really helps in the healing process. It also helps build empathy between you and your patients. On the other hand, if you are in sports management, the stories you tell your athletes can be very inspiring. Think about the way that the Olympics are filmed. It's sporting event, profile on an artist. A sporting event, profile on an athlete, not an artist. Which brings us to the last piece, which is storytelling and faith. What role does the stories we tell play in the expression of our faith? How we draw people in to understand our view of the world and the faith we hold. I've often been really surprised how some people who are storytellers or digital media folks who are telling stories don't examine the themes of the stories they're sharing and ask the question, how does the story I'm telling square with my belief in God, my belief in the role in my life that God plays? And so I want us to consider that a little bit. Now, if you have any questions about how to do this assignment, and I haven't answered them in this video, then feel free to email me at alexandrialafay@greenville.edu. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.